Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk. Secure Talk is brought to you by AdeQuest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I'll be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. Today, we're going to be talking to Microsoft's Andrea Fisher. Andrea is a global cybersecurity specialist and also a Windows 10 expert. Andrea is going to tell us a little bit about some of the amazing security and productivity tools that are built into Windows 10 and give us an update on the latest deployment levels. Andrea, how are you today?
I am doing great, Mark. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. We are going to be talking about Windows 10. That's correct?
Yes, sir. Lots of new good stuff coming out.
Well, why don't we just jump into that? I've heard that Windows 10 has now actually displaced Windows 7 in terms of number of deployments.
You are absolutely right. It's taken almost 3.5 years, but when 10 has finally surpassed Windows 7, it's running on about 45% of all PCs running Windows.
Wow,
So
that's must be big news. I mean, that's big news for you. And does that affect you like day to day in terms of what you're doing?
it certainly gives us more people to talk to about features because people are finally getting to 10. So that means they're probably not taking advantage of a lot of the new features in 10. So it certainly gets us out there hustling, talking to lots of people about what they should be taking advantage of now that they have Win 10 as an OS.
And what have been the primary drivers?
I would say certainly the number one thing is security, right? Windows 10 is all about security. The other thing that we should mention is as of January 14th, we actually just hit the 1-year mark to Windows 7 end of life.
Oh,
So that's a big driver, right? So it's,
right.
for a long time, it felt like it was very far away, right? You're like 2020, that's forever. I have all the time in the world. But we literally just hit the 1-year mark, and that's not including Saturdays and Sundays, right? I'm sure if we took those out, we're probably talking closer to, 7 months, 8 months, right? So.
Wow. So that means at the end of that 1 year, there's no more updates for Windows 7, no patches, nothing.
So there is an extended support contract you can buy. I don't know the pricing, but I'll just say it's probably not going to be inexpensive. So for those people that really feel the need to hold on to 7, there's a way to do that if you need to. But, obviously we'd love for you to get off 7 if you can, because like I said, the dinosaurs were roaming the earth when Windows 7 came out. So.
That's funny. We have some customers and who are, ramping up in their deployment of Windows 10 right now. And one of the challenges that this particular customer has is that they have a lot of remote devices in areas with no IT support. Do you have any suggestions or best practices in terms of deploying in that kind of scenario?
Certainly there's a couple of things that we can do. The idea of autopilot is one of the things that's great for those disconnected environments, especially if these people are looking to get new PCs, right? If there's any chance those PCs are ready to go end of life, right? We could drop ship a brand new PC to Singapore or Oregon or wherever they might be sitting. They can boot it up and just enter in their network credentials. And if they're managed by Intune, we can use Autopilot to automatically join them to the domain, apply policy, deliver applications, and all those kinds of things. So that's certainly the new modern workplace idea to handle those remote users. Obviously, if they're not ready for that, we're still looking to do some kind of in-place upgrade. We're going to have to do some things old school, right? We may have to send them a USB drive and help them do an upgrade in place. We might have to actually send a person out there. If they are using SCCM or something like that, and there's a remote distribution point, we could do something like that. So definitely lots of options, but the idea is to get to that autopilot environment.
Excellent. Okay. And then back to Windows 10 itself. You mentioned that security has been one of the primary drivers for the deployment of Windows 10. Can you give some of the best examples of how Windows
Well, I
10
think
is more secure?
absolutely. I mean, honestly, we had a whole philosophical change when it came to Windows 10 that, no one can secure the operating system better than we do since we write the code. So the whole idea behind the way we wrote the code has changed. We've, Credential Guard and CCI, those things are taking advantage of the hypervisor that's built into the device, the TPM chip, right? Those things that really let us take advantage and apply security policy. So Credential Guard, application control, device guard, all of those things. Honestly, one of the things I'm most excited about that we've been waiting for is, I don't know, since I don't even know how long they've been around, but certainly as long as I've been in IT, we have had the Microsoft security baselines. So every time a new version of Windows came out, you could go to the baseline page and you could download a group policy template, an ADMX template, and that template would have all of the existing Microsoft security recommendations on it. So if you wanted to, you could immediately apply that to your machines to make it safer. We've now just done the same thing for Intune. So we brought all 300 settings that are part of the security baseline into Intune. So you can now, if you are being fully cloud managed, we can take advantage of all of those policies. We're going to be adding iOS and Android baselines as well, and adding the ability to import and export capabilities. So we can import templates from other places, maybe even security baselines from government agencies. So I think that's a really exciting feature that gives you a set of policies to start with as a guide, and you can make them work for your own environment.
No, that's huge because, what we're seeing with a lot of the Intune deployments is there's a lot of work that is done just getting some base policies set up, and once those are set up, then the deployment tends to accelerate. But it's the initial setup, and if you've got, you said how many that you're going to be able to choose from?
300.
300. I think that's going to cover a big chunk of the use cases that most organizations are seeing. So that's pretty impressive. Can we go back though? You mentioned things like Credential Guard, and there might be some people that aren't really up to speed in terms of Credential Guard and the TPM chip. Can you just kind of walk through those as well?
Absolutely. I always say that Credential Guard is without a doubt my favorite security feature in Windows 10. It is worth the price of Windows Enterprise, that purchase itself. So Credential Guard takes advantage of the built-in hypervisor on the machine, and it puts your credentials into this little hypervised bubble. So for years, the structure of the Windows operating system was applications sat on top of the OS, which sat on top of the kernel, which sat on top of the hardware, right? So if someone managed to get inside the kernel with maybe a clever driver injection attack or who knows what way, lots of boring stuff sits in the kernel, but one of the main things that does sit in the kernel is your LSAS credentials. So what happens with Credential Guard is we sort of separate out that kernel to hold a small piece of it to ourselves, right? So a little hypervised sandbox where you pop the credentials in there. So if someone does manage to exploit the kernel, they're not going to get to your credentials. So someone using something like Mimikatz or some kind of credential hacking tool, they're not going to be able to get into your credentials and maybe replay the hash and start moving laterally across your environment. Like I said, literally my favorite feature because all it takes is the right kind of hardware, Windows Enterprise, and a group policy. So pretty easy to set up, and you could be shrinking the attack surface of your environment exponentially.
So I'm just curious, Microsoft 3 or 4 or 5 years ago was never perceived as a security company, and there was all these add-ons that were required when you bought Microsoft products to protect what you had purchased and your IT infrastructure. Do you now with Windows 10, does it start off with security?
I think it should. absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we always like to say is um, Microsoft is the biggest security company you've never heard of, right?
Right.
You're absolutely right. People don't think about us that way, but it's really been a focus in almost everything that we do. Like I said, from the ground up with Windows 10, we are designing each piece to be as secure as possible. Um, Actually, with the upcoming version, we've got a new feature that's actually called the Windows Sandbox. And it's really meant for, how many times have you downloaded an executable file, but you were afraid to run it, right? So you can actually bring up a Windows Sandbox, which is sort of an isolated temporary desktop environment where you can run untrusted software. And then, you can check out, make sure that exe or whatever is safe, and you can hit the little X marks. And the next thing you know, the sandbox is gone. And now you know whether you're safe or not.
That's awesome. I mean, I get files sent to me from friends and family, colleagues, and I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a bit paranoid these days, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know. You could, and this just solves that problem. You've got a little detonation chamber,
Yep, your
right?
very own private detonation chamber.
Cool. And so talk us through some of the other things.
So there's a couple of, I would say besides that file downloading feature, which I think is a struggle we've always had, one of the other items that we've tried to figure out ways to fix are, USBs and removable devices, right? We do lots of things to protect things that are on the device, but what about when we add something to the device, like, somebody picks up a USB stick in the parking lot and, sticks it inside their PC? You wouldn't believe how effective that can be. There's a story, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but of a young MIT grad who wanted to get a job with the government. And he said, if I can get inside your environment, if I can find out something inside your environment, would you hire me? And they're like, sure, kid, whatever. And he spent, I think it was like a week, throwing USB drives over the fence at this facility until someone finally picked up this nice flashy 512 gig USB flash drive and plugged it in to their PC inside this government facility, right? And so what are we going to do to protect against things like that? So we've got actually a couple new things that come along with Windows 10. One comes from Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So we have one of the features is called Exploit Guard, which you guys may or may not be familiar with, but there's a couple different pieces to Exploit Guard. One of them is called Attack Surface Reduction. There's a set of rules that we can apply. Lots of other cool things in Exploit Guard as well, like network protection, controlled folder access. We can talk about those later. But with the Exploit Guard Attack Surface Reduction rule, we can actually prevent actions or applications by exploit-seeking malware to infect machines. And we can say, if something is clicked from a USB device, some kind of exe or something like that, we can ensure real-time scanning for those USB devices is enabled, right, from our antivirus. But then we can also make sure that the Exploit Guard reduction rule can block any untrusted or unsigned files on a removable device as soon as it's connected. So
That's pretty powerful.
I know. And even a step above that is if the device has direct memory access, right, DMA capability, which a lot of people call Thunderbolt devices, right, we can actually create some policies where you can prevent or allow, right, those kinds of things. So we have the ability to give you some granularity, right, not all or nothing.
Excellent. Do you think, I mean, with all these baked in security tools and features, do you think it could lead to a bit of complacency from users? Just saying, hey, you know what? I don't have to worry about stuff anymore.
Well, I think that's always the struggle with users. I mean, including us, right? I mean, you just get tired of being totally vigilant all the time. I think the key is making sure that these features get set up in the first place, which I think is really one of the struggles of, people are like, well, we got to Windows 10, we're done. Well, you're not done, right? Most of these things aren't turned on by default because you need to test in your environment and make sure they're not going to cause any waves. So, making sure that our admin teams are actually turning these things on and, doing our best. We talk about user education, but I keep seeing studies that show actually user education isn't helping all that much because, the people who are writing phishing attacks and things like this just keep getting smarter and smarter. And even like you were talking about your friends emailing you things, right? Sometimes the phishing people are getting so smart. I mean, it sounds like it came from your friend, right?
Exactly. I actually was in a workshop yesterday, and somebody had received an earthquake alert from their employer saying, hey, there was an earthquake. Please confirm that you're safe. And this was a legitimate message. But at the same time, the person was thinking, wow, what an excellent way to fool people with a phishing email, right? After there's some kind of earthquake, some kind of incident someplace, you just send out one of these messages to all the identities that you have, and just see who responds,
My goodness, that is terrible and so smart.
So devious, right?
Yes, absolutely. That makes me think that's something we have constant red team, blue team tests, here inside Microsoft, where they're always trying to gain the upper hand on each other to make sure that we're being as safe as possible. And this isn't Windows related, but as part of Office Advanced Threat Protection and Threat Intelligence, we have this thing called the Attack Simulator. So you can go in and you can kind of be testing your users to see if they'll fall for some kind of phishing attack. So that would be a great one. The number one that always gets people at Microsoft is win a free Xbox. Right? People love to click on that one, right? But that would
my kids are going to be so happy. Oh. And then surprise, no.
But that's another great one to try, right? Is, or even if you wanted to be like, hey, natural disaster happened in, XYZ, click here to donate. People are so nice, right?
Wow,
They're like,
right.
oh, of course I'll donate. Oh, terrible. No one listening to us ever do any of these things.
But that would be such a fun job. Just to sit around and think about, really devious ways to not really harm people, because you're actually educating them, right? So you could actually feel good about doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
For the right reason. I don't know if that makes sense. But, okay, so back to Windows 10. What else would you want to talk about?
Gosh, there's so many cool things going around, and I'm going to lump in Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection with Windows 10 because they're certainly, tied together. So we do have some great new things that are coming out with Defender ATP. We've got some new role-based access controls so that really help you manage or also help the SOC manage security if you have a security operations center. Adding those role-based access controls so that the people who want to see the Canadian machines but not the UK machines or vice versa, or who have access to executive machines, right? You might want to delineate some of that stuff. I'm trying to think what other really cool things have we been looking at lately.
Any biometric?
Oh, absolutely. We have had pretty much since the debut of Windows 10, we've had Windows Hello, right, which is the ability to use your face, your fingerprint, your iris, or even a PIN, right, to help against to use those biometric credentials. I heard this number somewhere that 80% of attacks start by people getting tricked out of their credentials, right? Whether that's either like we were just talking about some kind of phishing attack, or maybe somebody just saying, "Oh, what's your password? Oh, I usually use my dog's name," and whatever, right? So, however they were tricked out of it. But that's one of the great things that biometrics does for us, right? Is unless you're looking at the old Minority Report movie, right, where Tom Cruise had to pluck out his eyeballs. No one's really going to steal your eyeball or your finger, right? So they need something besides, right, just to be able to replay our username and password. So certainly right. Windows Hello with biometrics. But recently,
before you go on, I just tell you my Windows Hello story. I had a new Windows 10 device, and the facial recognition was working great. I think I went on a trip, didn't use that particular device for a week or so, came back, and it wouldn't work. I didn't recognize me. My wife said I needed that was definite proof that I needed a haircut, but but even the haircut didn't work, so I had to go back and reset things. But have you come across that, or am I special?
I've certainly heard that happening. It's unusual, certainly. But I will tell you, it took me a while to train my facial recognition because, especially as a girl, right? I had to train it with my glasses off, trained it with my glasses on, trained it with my hair up and my glasses on, trained it with my hair up and my glasses off, right? So
Wow, I
lots of
didn't know you
different.
could actually do that.
Yeah,
So just like when you're doing your fingerprint scan where you get it from multiple angles, you got to do your facial recognition from in morning, before shower and coffee, after shower and coffee, after shaving. Oh God, for guys, yeah. What about shaving and not shaving?
Yeah, you totally can. Anytime you want to, you can go into the Hello settings inside your Windows 10 machine,
Hmm.
and you can say, I can't remember the exact word, I should look it up for us, but you can train it. And so, like you said, if you wanted to train it so that it sees you with 2 days stubble or a goatee, right, you can make that happen.
That's amazing. And it just I guess a naive assumption on my part that it was just one snapshot there, and so what's the technology? I mean, so what is it really keying into? Is it keying into your bone structure, or I mean, what's the science? And I know that's a little deeper into the weeds than just kind of general features of Windows 10, but it's still kind of interesting.
No, honestly, there's a great many Ready presentations that have been given. Ready is the Microsoft training that we go to twice a year, and most of them are available on the internet. So if you guys want to search for just MS Ready, and you can look at the videos on demand. There's a great one that talks about, this is just the example of fingerprints, right? So fingerprints are looked at 3 or 4 different measurements. There's the length, the depth, the whorls, WHORLS. There's a great presentation that, and I think something like a 78-page white paper on how to use fingerprint recognition for that. So if anyone is looking for some great bedtime reading, I'm sure that will be available. But when it comes to facial recognition, you actually need a specific type of camera. We need an infrared-like camera because it is looking at things like depth, the space of your features, right, the distance between your irises, but it also looks at things like heat signatures and things like that, so that no one could just hold up a picture of you, right? It can
Oh,
tell
right.
it's right. So, or
Well,
even a 3D picture of you, right?
yeah, do people have different heat signatures, or is it just checking that there is some heat coming off of this person?
It is making sure that it's just not a picture. I don't
Okay.
know if it would know if it was a dead body or not. I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that, but
These
hopefully.
hackers, these hackers, they're getting some kind of a heater, heat up the. Okay, we're getting a little morbid. Okay. So anyway, back to I cut you off. You were talking about some of the other biometrics in addition to Windows Hello.
So, the Microsoft goal has been we want to, we're making a promise that end users should never have to worry about passwords, and that, our IT departments, our IT professionals also should not have to worry about, that's one of the most expensive calls to the help desk. I've forgotten my password. So we're really working to eliminate the password. And, Hello is certainly the first step in that. But we've got some new other things. Like, I don't know if anyone is taking advantage of the Microsoft Authenticator app. But like today, it's an application I download on my phone from the iTunes store. And for accounts that are born in the cloud, let's say an account that's created in Azure AD. So in my Azure AD test environment, right, there's no on-premise domain controllers. So that account was never even assigned a password. So every time I log into portal.azure.com with the account I created in there, a number pops up. So look, 72. and the Authenticator app on my phone will buzz, and it will show me 3 different numbers as a choice. And I will say one of those numbers will be 72. So I select 72, then it's going to ask for my thumbprint as a second factor of authentication, and then I'm logged into Azure AD, right? So there's never a password involved. So working on all of those things, and when it comes to Windows devices, some of you too have probably heard about FIDO 2 is coming out. So the ability to use like USB keys as a second factor of authentication that you can set up FIDO2 in your, Azure AD environment. And so what happens is I use the FIDO key. Mine is from Yubico. I place my thumb on the Yubico key, then I swipe my fingerprint, and I'm logged into the device, no password needed, right?
Excellent. Back to the Authenticator app. So we use the Authenticator app, but we use it slightly different. It's just a way to do a second factor authentication when I'm working, remote on a non-domain joined device, and it's like every 3 days I have to do the second factor. So, but is this a different Authenticator app, or is it just different settings in the Authenticator app?
Nope, you're absolutely right. Absolute same application. It works on iOS, Android, as well. So it depends on the authentication mechanism at the back end. So, right, you can have it call it can call someone as your second factor. So it can call me, it can text me, it can use my fingerprint, but we're taking that Authenticator app and sending it to new heights, like we were talking about, is it can work for us now to totally avoid having passwords at all.
Right, and that's the device password. And if I get into the device, will I have to authenticate again then to access my company's platform?
I would say for now, I think so, until we get all of line of business apps and all of those things to be able to handle that pass-through authentication. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we're still a good 10 years away from being perfectly passwordless, but we're certainly trying to move toward that as quickly as we can, right?
Excellent. Well, that would make you everybody's hero. I'm pretty sure. So, excellent. Well, hey, we're coming up close to a half hour here. And yeah, I love talking to you because I can just sit back and listen and learn. What else would you like to talk about?
Well, I will say, again, going back to Defender ATP, which is just my favorite thing these days. If y'all are not familiar with it, Defender Advanced Threat Protection, with its endpoint detection and response solution, is what we call our post-breach solution, right? So, we've done our best to keep bad people out, but someone has gotten in, and its job is to help us find things as quickly as possible. So we've got some great new reporting in there. We've got what we now call incidences. So let's say 3 machines in your environment are noted to have the same piece of malware, or maybe someone's tried to run a nefarious PowerShell script against 3 devices. So it's now going to look, instead of just as alerts, it's going to use artificial intelligence to group things that seem to be happening similarly together. So really just to help our security analysts find out what's going on faster. And Secure Score, right? A lot of us are familiar with Secure Score in Office 365, but Defender ATP gives us a Secure Score as well, gives us some pointers on how we can make our Windows devices even safer.
So what is it? It's because with the Office 365 Secure Score, you're looking at your Office 365 tenant, basically. And you're looking at, have you turned on MFA? Have you turned on MFA for global admins? Some of the DLP tools, have you activated them? What exactly are you looking at in Windows? You said it's Windows 365. I'm sorry. Windows Secure Score? Say it again. I can edit this part.
You're absolutely right. That's fine. So Windows Secure Score, which comes from Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. And to get Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, you must own Windows Enterprise. And you also must buy a step-up SKU or a step-up purchase that we call of Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So certainly it looks very similar to if you're familiar with the Office 365 Secure Score, but I'm just looking at a sample right here. And it tells me that I could gain 100 more points in my secure score if I install the latest security updates on all of my machines. Then if I scroll down here and I look at that a little more in depth, it tells me these 22 machines actually are not running the latest security updates. It tells me that I need to fix antivirus reporting on a couple of machines. It tells me I can get 25 more points if I turn on BitLocker across all of my PCs. Right? So it just gives us some idea, and honestly some nice reporting as well, because it's a really easy to view dashboard that puts all that stuff together. In most of our environments today, right? If I want to see if BitLocker is supported, I have to go to MBAM. If I want to see if the OS security updates are up to date, I have to go to SCCM. If I want to see where the antivirus is up to date, right, that's another place. So this is all in a single view, so we could just get a really nice 360 view of our environment.
That's super powerful. In addition to all the great security features that you have been talking about, are there any other productivity features or just user experience or functionality that's been upgraded, changed?
I will say my favorite came maybe a version ago, which is the dark theme, which I just really like. It's so much better on my eyeballs. But for people who use it, inking is obviously, the best way to, if you have a device that handles handwriting, right? That's certainly a great way of using the built-in pen to take advantage of. Honestly, to me, I don't search for anything anymore. A lot of people don't take advantage of the Cortana, our digital assistant. But if you go down into the Cortana window and you type anything, this is one of my favorites just because at Microsoft we have a lot of marketing content, right, about all different kinds of topics. So I can just go down into the Cortana window and I can type in the word security, and I can type in PPTX, right, which is the extension for PowerPoint. And it's going to quickly tell me that I have 3 PowerPoint presentations in my OneDrive with the word security in them. So I can immediately look at these and be like, yep, Win 10 security, that's the one I want. So just little time-saving things. That's what I really appreciate about it, for sure. We can definitely do a section on productivity, but another one we have that's a recent addition is close file sharing, which I believe is something similar to AirDrop that people who have Macs are familiar with. We also have a new one called Focus Assist that I love. You can just type in, again, down in the Cortana window, you type in Focus Assist. I am easily distracted by shiny things and pop-ups. So anytime I need to just really be focused, whether I'm reading something technical or I need to respond to someone and I just want some, an hour or two of just focus time, you can pop on Focused Assist and it will turn off every notification on your PC, whether that's coming from email or from Teams or a warning that your antivirus is out of date. It's going to turn off all of those pop-ups. And then, whatever you set it for 60 minutes later, those pop-ups can come back. That to me is a huge saver.
I'm like the proverbial puppy and chasing balls or cat with string, and I'm my very next setting, or the first thing I'm going to do after we get off this call is hit that focus assist function. That's pretty cool. Well, hey, Andrea, I really appreciate your time, and I'm excited to actually dig a little bit deeper into Windows 10. I mean, we all have it on our machines. I just haven't had the time to explore some of the features that you spoke about. If somebody out there wanted to watch a super cool video that gives a broad overview of the things that you just spoke about, where would they go? What's the best place?
We're just like everyone else, right? If you go to YouTube and you search for the Microsoft Windows channel, there's a whole channel dedicated to features of Windows. So I would say that's a great place to get started. There's also a website called Channel 9. Channel 9 probably has a little more technical content, but also a great place to go if you want to learn more about Windows Hello or more about Credential Guard. Those are wonderful places to start.
And then in terms of user tutorials to get people up to running, because there's a difference between showing somebody an overview of these features, but actually going in and then using Windows 10. Do you have a favorite, or would it also be in the same place?
So actually, for end user features, there's a great place to go. It's simply www.microsoft.com/Windows. And listed in there is a whole set of, discover facial recognition with Windows Hello, using your fingerprint to log in, And it's got lovely little tutorials that will walk you through what the features are and how to set them up.
Excellent. That is so helpful. Thank you so much. Hey, Andrea, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I learn so much every time I talk with you. I'm super, super excited about Windows 10, and I encourage everybody out there who's listening to take a look. If you haven't already deployed it, well, time is, as you heard, the clock is ticking. So I would encourage you to get that upgrade ASAP. And if you want more information, take a look at some of the resources that Andrea was talking about. Andrea, thank you so much. I wish you a great day.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. Hope to talk to you soon.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.